Okay.
Happy days, rock and roll.
Right.
Coming at you live from Liverpool Podcast Studios with film director Shaun Cowley. How are we?
I'm good, lad. How are you?
I'm very good. Liverpool
Nice.
are falling apart. Everton carry on winning. Life's good.
I don't know what's going on with Liverpool at the minute, lads, I'll be honest with you. Well, I do know exactly what's going on with Liverpool. I think it's a confidence thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't think you can have the two best seasons of your entire, well, of the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years that we've had, and then sustain it for 3 years, especially with the amount of injuries. And then as soon as you start losing, you just carry on losing.
Landslide.
Yeah.
Well, it's reminiscent of Klopp when he was at Dortmund. You remember that season where
The last season
relegation was a
before
real
he
sort of
stepped down.
possibility.
Yeah.
He managed to save it at the end of the day. And I mean, it's not quite as serious with Liverpool, but I mean, I only watched the first 45 minutes against Chelsea. I watched his post-match interview. He said, the passages of play were good. It was just that final ball.
That's what it's been like, lad. The final ball. It's like,
how though? With Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, players like Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
it's a confidence thing that we all the quality is there, minus the injuries, obviously. The quality is there, but I genuinely think it's. I've spoken about the low block before.
Yeah.
Liverpool's inability to break down a low block, and I feel like it's been figured out now. Everybody, especially when we first got into this bad run of form, we're knee deep in it now, you know what I mean? And I can't really see a way out, to be honest. But when it first started, it was the low block. It was the Burnley and the Brighton and things like that. And without, if we're one of the most direct teams, the long ball is frowned upon in football, especially in the Premier League. But we're good at the long ball, but we're also good at playing the ball on the floor, you know what I mean? And then you've got 2 of the best crosses in world football and 3 of the best finishers. Maybe not Firmino as a finisher, but if you've got 10 men in front of you, why are you trying to do that for 90 minutes? If it doesn't work the first 6, 7, 8 times, then you're getting inside your head, and then the cross isn't as good the next time, and then the finish isn't as good the next time.
The Blues' first win at Anfield in 21 years have destroyed the Reds psychologically.
Oh, we were fucked before that.
This is the first podcast I've done since the derby win as well, so I just want to go on record and say Merseyside's
That's funny,
blue
innit?
at the minute.
Yeah. You get your Liverpool fan mate on the first podcast after the derby. Fucking bellend.
So I'll take that opportunity.
I wouldn't say Merseyside's blue, to be honest with you.
Oh, it is, mate.
I don't think it is.
And then we'll fucking switch it to the Blues then. The Blues are on a roll after getting beat 3-1 by Manchester City. They haven't conceded a goal. A 2-0 win, a 1-0 win, and a 1-0 win.
All right, lad. Fucking hell.
That's the thing, though, lad. For me, those horrible, scabby 1-0 win performances.
Oh. Okay.
To be fair, when I was sort of assessing the derby and analysing the game in Anfield, it was something like a 70-30 game in favour of Liverpool for possession. But Everton were just better. I would say they were just a lot more efficient with the ball.
That's it, lad. We have a lot of the ball, but we just can't do anything with it no more.
Okay, but what I mean is that was massive psychologically from Everton's perspective. First win since 1999, 21, 22 years, whatever you want to call it. But for me, now, after the win last night, as recording now, last night, when we beat West Brom away, that put us temporarily up into the Champions League places. And those are the types of wins that get you Champions League football. Those horrible, scabby 1-0 wins when you don't necessarily perform well. It's a results industry.
Yeah.
Results are the things that matter at the end of the day. I remember under Roberto Martinez, we play such attractive football and we come up short at the end of the day. And that's not what achieved things in football. So things are looking up in that regard. And I won't condemn you to any further misery. I did have an interesting question that I wanted to prise the conversation open with you and your sort of realm of film directors, and you know that's an industry that you spend a lot of time inside of. If you could have any actor, to narrate your life, who would it be and why?
like the overall commentary of my life. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone with a good voice, lad. James Earl Jones, McConaughey. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
It's worth mentioning as well that Shaun turned me on to Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey's book, and what a man. What a journey, what an experience. It's one of those books that I just revisit when I want an uplift in my mood. Like,
he's it's just like the eternal optimist.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's like, obviously especially the way he talks about like his career in that book. Like, he talks about he was just the rom-com guy, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't really do anything that challenged him, and he wasn't happy with it, but he was making loads of money and things like that. And then he started getting older, and he says, and I started losing my hair and things like that. And he was like, do I want to have a proper go at this, or do I want to just... There's a point in the book where he talks about he got that offer, and it was the largest offer he'd ever had, and he turned it down, and then they offered him more money. And he's like, if I take that, then I'm just the rom-com guy for the rest of my life. Or do I go and work with the likes of like Jeff Nichols? And he ended up working with Christopher Nolan, but he made that conscious decision to like, no, I'm going to take less money and I'm going to do more challenging work. And then the 4 years of it, 2011, 12, 13, and he won an Oscar in 2014. Madness.
That was Dallas Buyers Club, wasn't it? Yeah, good film. So for the actor of choice to narrate the life of Shaun Cowley, but Matthew McConaughey.
That's because I listened to his audio book and I just like the way his voice sounds.
Of course, man. That deep Texan accent.
Yeah.
What was his name in Dazed and Confused?
Wooderson. Yeah.
For me, I'd have to go for Jude Law.
Ooh, nice. Little posh, young Jude Law, little posh accent.
Because you know a film I watched recently,
What?
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
And he's just so articulate and precise in his speech and how he describes things.
He sort of just went off the map a bit, Jude Law, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. He was like the biggest thing in the world, late 90s, early 2000s, and then he just went missing. Yeah. And then...
Bit of a rom-com guy as well.
Yeah.
Seen a couple of rom-coms.
He did, but he does like... He's another one who does like sort of... Like, he'll do the big rom-coms to make loads of money, and then he'll go away and do like small, like obscure, you know what I mean, like art house films and that. Like respectable.
Good in Sherlock Holmes. He played Watson.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's the best Sherlock Holmes film ever made. Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes. I was into that. That was a good film.
I like in that the thing that always stands out for me about that film is the way he like breaks down what he's gonna do when he's fighting the dude at the beginning. Yeah. And like breaks it down. It's like, that's sick. It's
brilliant, isn't it? Who directs that, by the way?
Guy Ritchie.
Oh shit.
Your favourite?
I like Guy Ritchie. Like, speaking about Rogan podcast, mate, that clip in his Rogan appearance,
the suit,
when he talks about owning the suit, that's something else I just revisit when I need to pick me up.
Yeah.
He goes, what's that saying? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Don't hate the game because you're in it, mate. Like, just...
I feel like with the suit thing, like I don't fully understand it, lad, I'll be honest with you.
Right, I'll explain it to you right now.
Okay.
Look at what you're wearing. Do you feel comfortable? Do you authentically feel yourself in currently what you're wearing?
Super bad, lad,
then you're owning the suit. You're owning your suit. Feel me?
Yeah.
Like, I feel comfortable in this. I like this.
I like chalk and cheese.
It's a bit of a different choice, innit? My little cousin had a go at me, turn on.
I like it, lad.
He's boss, lad. He'd come round in his little Ajax kit, lad. He's like, why are you wearing pink? Pink's a girl's colour. I like it, lad.
Vile homophobe.
on keeping with that note of film directors, if a film director was to direct your life, who would it be?
Myself. No.
Be like The Room. What's the guy's name? Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau.
Starring, featuring, produced and directed by.
Written, directed and starring. Yeah. No, I can't act, lad. We've already had that conversation. I think I'd go Linklater. Richard Linklater.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might watch that tonight, Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Just to refresh me memory of Woodson. You
Yeah.
got a joint, man?
I'm not going to say it.
Well, it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Fucking great, lad. I love that film, lad. That's genuinely like that and the Before trilogy, all made by Richard Linklater. They're the films that made me go from like being interested in cinema to going like, I can do that. You know what I mean?
Wanting to turn a hobby into a career.
Yeah. I feel like everybody who's got like an interest will eventually try their hand at it. Like people who like to read will write. People who like to eat food will cook. People who like podcasts will start a podcast. And I feel like I said this to you before.
It's the signal to noise ratio sort of that concept. I think it's called the what's it called? The Pareto distribution, where it's like to those that have, more will be given. It's just like it's a very sort of small number that succeed.
Yeah.
It's like 80-20, 20% succeed.
Yeah. So yeah, like the
is
success rate of people who want to do it, like it's like a lot more popular now than it was when the people who inspired me to do it started doing it, because back then it was like digital cameras and things like that. Like everybody has got access to it. Everyone's got a camera in the pocket. You can get a digital camera, £200-400. Like it sounds like a lot of money, but you pay it once and it's yours, and you've got it and you can use it for as long as you need to get good at it. But like as I said before we started the podcast, like I feel very lucky that I found something young enough to know this is what I want to do.
What you identify with?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people, like it's the whole like coming of age thing. Like a lot of people don't know what they want to do, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a good thing, but I feel lucky that I never sort of went through that feeling of not knowing what I want to do. Like obviously,
I think it's one of the symptoms of life.
Yeah, it is. Like, and again, like on top of that, not knowing what you want to do also leads into not really knowing who you are. Know what I mean? And like, as I said, like I feel very lucky that at a young age I discovered what I wanted to do, or it discovered me. Know what I mean? And I've worked at it, and I always say I call myself a filmmaker, but there's not a lot out there of content that I've made that you can see. But like I always feel like a bit of a fraud when I say it. But then I think like, well, if I convince myself first that I am, and I know I'm good at what I do, and eventually people are going to get to see it. If I don't convince myself, then I'm not going to convince anybody else.
It's
that makes sense.
Trust in the process.
Exactly.
I've been reading a lot. I've been reading and listening to a lot lately. An audio book that I've only just turned onto in the last couple of days is Jordan Peterson's new book. I'm big on Jordan Peterson, the Canadian psychologist. He's released a new book, 12 More Rules for Life. And one of the things he's talking about is sort of being grounded in what you want to do, and having a sort of knowing what you want to do and falling in love with the process rather than the end result. Because it's like, if one of the rules in the book is, I haven't got onto this chapter yet, but I just know it's one of the rules, is to not do what you hate. I've done a lot of things that I dislike doing.
I do a lot of things that I hate now. You know what I mean? But you've got to, in order to do the things, well, I think anyway, in order to do the things you want to do, you have to do the things that you don't like to do. Yeah. Were you going to go in the complete other direction then?
That is true. But it's also a sense of, sort of developing identity, knowing what you want to do. And you're saying that people will think that you're a bit of a fraud, but I think that's ruminating about other people's conceptions, and that's the, you know, that's the name in headlights. You know, directed by Shaun Cowley. That's the end of the rainbow. But you got to fall in love with the process.
Exactly, lads. And the thing is as well, like, I sometimes, again, like as I said, like there's not a lot of physical content that I've made, but like over the past 2-3 years I've written like countless like short films and a feature and a TV show, and like the most of it's garbage, you know what I mean? But I feel like if I stop, like I'll drown, you know what I mean? And I'll get comfortable working a job that I don't particularly like or feel passionate about, and I'll get comfortable, I'll get stuck, and then I'll be 50, you know what I mean? And I'll be like, I'll still be watching films thinking maybe one day I could do that, but I'm 50 and like I'm married and I've got kids and a mortgage and it's just never going to happen, you know what I mean?
That resonates with me to a certain extent in my realm, as it were, and some of the things that I do, and I mean we'll get into that later, but I know you're currently working on a project and a pilot that you wanted to get into.
I mean, we've written it. I mean, it's not really something to talk about at the moment. Like, we've written it. We started it in June, I think. We started writing it, and then yesterday actually we finished our 3rd draft of the pilot. But it's like the pilot's obviously the first episode of the TV show, but what we've got is we've got a completely like understood and thought out vision and story and arcs for characters for 3 seasons, like 30 episodes.
Yeah.
But at the moment, like the way it works basically is you've got to get your first episode to the absolute best that it can be, and you've got to also, not only that, you've got to pitch it, and you've got to, what we want to do especially is we've got to let whoever we pitch it to know that we're not trying to sell you this script. This is our script. We just want you to let us make it, and this is why we're the only people who can make it. Because essentially it's about us. You know what I mean? It's
like local themes.
Yeah, but I feel like it's about university. It's about like the fish out of water, like someone who's never really been anywhere. Well, eight different kids who's never really been anywhere before, or from different like backgrounds, going to or getting like squashed together in a university halls, which obviously me and you went to uni, we can relate to. But I feel like even if you didn't go to uni, we've got enough in there that it's still relatable to anybody who's ever been 18, 19, 20, you know what I mean?
Fish out of water coming of age story.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I mean, I hope that's how it got, like, that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Local actors as well,
yeah. Yeah. But it's more, we don't just want it to be like a story about Scousers, know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about, obviously, like, there's a Scouser in it, but it's people from all over the UK, know what I mean?
Yeah. I said right. Scousers can act. I know Scousers can act. There's plenty of good examples of people from Liverpool that have gone on to be good actors, right? Scousers can't rap. Have you ever heard any like Scouse rap music?
A-Star, lad. What?
No, lad.
What about Eddie Mac, lad?
Leave it to the people from London, lad. It's not something anyone from around here should touch.
Why?
Personal taste, I guess. But right,
just let Mans do his art.
Speaking of local actors, right? Not far from mine, where I live, it's actually at the home that my granddad's currently in at the minute. They're recording a series featuring Jodie Comer and Stephen Graham.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard Paddy was talking about that. Have you got any idea what it's about?
I think it's it runs with themes around COVID.
Yeah,
I think it's meant to be centered around what goes on in a nursing home during the pandemic.
I Right.
Like, because it's weird, like, it's not far from where I'm living at the minute. So I rode around to see my granddad, and where my granddad's, well, obviously you can't go in, where my granddad's window is, directly opposite his window is where they're filming and shooting and recording. So half the time, like, you just like wander on in the middle of a
if
shoot.
you walk and then you walk dead slow and have a little nose, and then you go back and then you go back.
And you see like blacked out Range Rovers just like pulling in and pulling out and that. It's interesting.
Paddy was talking to Stephen Graham. They did a show together. They shot it in November, I think. And he was talking to him about that. But obviously he couldn't go into like too many details, obviously. But it's like, it was mad because like Stephen Graham sort of just took Paddy under his wing. You know what I mean? Like with the little boy blue thing. I'm sure he won't mind me telling you, like, but with the little boy blue thing, Paddy told me that he was talking to Stephen Graham, like, in between takes and things like that. They never actually had a scene together, but they were always on set together. And he said they were chatting, and Stephen Graham said to him, like, I really think it'd be good if you could play my son in something in the future.
That's it.
Because he just like saw something, not even in his performance, but him as a person.
Yeah.
And how long ago was it? That was 2017 or 18 that came out, Little Boy Blue, and then November 2020, Paddy goes up for a role, and Stephen Graham saying, like, the role you're going up for is my son in this show. And so I helped him out with the taping, like I helped him out with his tapes in man and things like that. I helped him out with his taping. He got they rang him back about a week later on his birthday. And he was like, told him he got the part, so he's playing.
Nice birthday present, man. Well done, Paddy.
That's it, innit?
Well done, lad.
Yeah. I can't wait. I feel like Paddy's acting. He hasn't really had his chance yet to show like how good of an actor he actually is. Because the only real things that are like accessible to see now is Little Boy Blue, and then the two things that he's done, one on Netflix and one on Amazon Prime. But that was just when he was first getting into it, you know what I mean? And he's got other things that where he's actually performed and he's played a character and he's acted properly, but none of it's like been ready to be released yet, you know what I mean? And then obviously the pandemic happening was like halted it as well.
Impact on production.
Yeah, so I feel like that's why we're throwing ourselves into like our own work at the minute so much, because he said himself and what I said before, like, we don't really feel like we've had a chance to show people, like, not even show people, like, it's for ourselves, you know what I mean?
Of course.
We haven't really had the chance to do something that we actually want to do and we're actually passionate about, and we feel like the world might be a better place if what we've done is in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think anyone that's undergoing any sort of creative pursuit, that's at the heart of what they want to do. I don't think it's some sort of selfish drive. It's fulfilling that sort of prophecy of the way of wanting to like fucking make the world a better place by, offering what they have to offer. And I mean, I remember once I made the pitch for this podcast and got up and run with the podcast, one of the things that I said initially was that I always sort of had the underlying perception by, these sort of wealthy middle class industry professionals that I'm just some Scouse kid that wants a platform. You know what I mean? So I made the note of saying, I don't want this to be a strictly Scouse orientated or Northern orientated podcast. And I think I've hopefully proven that with some of the guests. Like some of the people that I've had on. But that being said, I think at the end of the day, I just want to be an agent of narrative and getting people on here to tell their stories.
Yeah. Like, it's not about you, it's about
the guest. 100%.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'd love to have the likes of Paddy, Stephen Graham, Jodie Comer even. I know my mum watches a lot of Killing Eve. So she'd be happy if I got her on. But like, just getting these people on to share their experiences.
I think you could
stories.
get Paddy to come on and do the podcast. He'd be happy to do it.
Definitely. I know he dropped me a message. Yeah. So
there you go.
Get that sorted in the future.
I like, I've said this to you a million times and I'll say it again. Like, I like when you were saying then about your like podcasting, it's about the guest. Like I know last time we did an episode, however long ago that was, I was saying like I can see you like learning and getting better and things like that. But I've noticed now, especially with your most previous episode, what's the lady's name again?
Layla Annalee.
From BT Sport and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was listening to that and I was just thinking, I'm so proud of this kid. Like the way you were questioning her. Like I could tell you were asking her things about how she got her start in the industry and how she does it differently to other people and why she says to the people who like get her the work, this is why you need to hire me. Like you're doing it wrong if I'm not involved. But I could see you were asking her those questions so that you can relate it to yourself, as if to say like, well, you're the producer. You're a presenter. I'm a podcast host. How can I get my podcast to be as big as I want it to be? And your questioning was... But what I also noticed as well was every time you asked her a question, she went, wow, that's a good question. I was just like, know what I mean? Like, it's sort of, you do put all the focus on your guest, but it's like the questions that they want to answer. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think when I'm sort of constructing what I'm going to say, obviously it's like one of those thinking in the moment things, you know, that goes without saying, but at the end of the day, I want them to think before answering. I don't want it to be some generic deadbeat question that they've been asked 100 times before. What's some of your advice for aspiring presenters? Yeah. Like, you know, God knows how many times she's been asked that.
It's like when you watch an interview in a band and they say like, where did you get the name from? Or like, how did you meet? And you can just see like 6 albums deep. They're like, you know what I mean? But that's what I love about your podcast is you ask questions that like people wouldn't even think to ask.
Well, do you want to know something? I hate the term interviews. I don't like being an interviewer. I like conversations. I want to have a conversation. Like I want to delve into interesting debates and discussions. Like these in particular are good because it's not like a QA format. It's a sort of free flowing, easy conversation to have.
I think there's a difference between inviting on a guest and inviting on your mate. You know what I mean? Yeah, I like doing this, but I always feel again, like I said before, like I feel like, well, what's he want me on the podcast for?
Because I've always subscribed to your belief, man. I've always seen what you've wanted to be, and I've subscribed to that. I know you can achieve it. I know the way visually how you perceive things and how you want to portray things in visual storytelling. Likewise with me with the podcast, in a sense. Yours is through sort of the drama of film. Mine's not necessarily through drama. Like, I want to, like that sort of level of authenticity I want to get across through the likes of a podcast. And again, I've got all my sort of different opinions on current media and how things are perceived. And I feel like a long form platform, like this preconception that people around our age and even younger have a goldfish attention span. I think the rise of podcasts I think the rise of podcasts has really proved that wrong. And that's why I'm so stubborn and persistent with the podcast. Like, I mean, this has taken a bit of a different turn, but this is the first podcast I've done in a couple of weeks. The first podcast I've done since before I was saying that Merseyside derby win, which was what, 2 weeks ago? A week ago? Something like that.
The days have blended into one since it happened, but...
That's depressing as a Liverpool fan now, yeah.
It's horrible. But now I finally know how it feels to be an Everton fan.
But and it's hard to communicate this and feel like I've hit the nail right on the head, but I know my dad was one of the biggest consumers and viewers of my content. Like, don't get me wrong, anyone that knows my dad knows he wasn't the poster boy for being a father. Like, you know my dad. Like, he wasn't even...
Good fella.
And just, I don't think he was made to... I don't think, some people are born to be a father. Like Matthew McConaughey in his book, from when he was a kid, he said the one thing he only ever knew he wanted to be was a father. I don't think that was my dad by any stretch of the imagination, So,
I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't know.
You know to an extent, but... I think
yikes.
Since I've lost my dad, right, it's like, I don't know, it's like the it's not necessarily the passion, because the passion still's there. I still always want to have conversations like this. I always want to learn from people. But football-orientated content in particular, like he was a massive consumer of me football content, obviously. And that was like sort of what you were saying before, in that it's
like, I feel as though this podcast it's a sports podcast. That's the way I see it, but
I don't want it to be limited to
exactly like that. That's why you get me on, like with me funny pants talking about movies. You know what I mean? Like I like the way it's also, it's not just the case of, it is a sports podcast essentially, or that's what it was when it started. But it's also like the sports, like industry professionals that you get on. It's like interesting perspectives. You know what I mean? It's not just like ex-footy players all the time. It's like sports scientists and backroom staff for football teams and journalists and things like that. Yeah, boardroom people. And it's essentially, when it started, it was a sports podcast, but now I feel like we're getting those different types of
crossovers.
Yeah, different types of guests on, and then the likes of like myself and things like that, and then potentially like Paddy and like actors and other artists and things like that. It's just a cool podcast, man. I love it. I don't really know. I feel like I'm just blowing smoke now. Like.
I don't do all the compliments, you know that, but I'm just cracking on, man. Like, I like having like a broad spectrum of people. Like, obviously it goes without saying, I think anyone that got their own podcast is greatly inspired by Rogan and what Rogan managed to do with a podcast and the sort of just how broad it is and the variety of people that he's managed to get on. Who knows, 10 years, Elon Musk sitting opposite me, bro. I don't know, mate, at the end of the day, right, look at the,
Elon Musk into getting stoned on your podcast.
We're in this lovely studio, right? Look at that logo up there. It's inspired by film. Do you know what that's of?
No.
Don't you?
No. I feel like a knobhead now. Why? What is it?
Scarface.
What? Why? What's Scarface?
It's a very indiscreet reference to something in Scarface. There's the hotel in Scarface called the Carlyle Hotel.
Oh.
And the sort of typography of the hotel
sorry.
is exactly like that. You're not seeing Scarface? Or do you not pay that close of attention?
I've seen Scarface when I was like 11. You know what I mean?
That's it?
Yeah.
I seen it when I was 11.
Yeah.
I was in a hotel somewhere. I got just watching it on my own, like that chainsaw scene. Fucking hell.
Yeah. See, I don't know what you're talking about with the chainsaw scene.
Have you not seen
I think I might need to rewatch Scarface, you know?
You do?
Yeah.
You need to update yourself. I had the fucking like major important films in like the history of film. All right, then let's put the ball back in Shaun's court.
About me.
Wes Anderson, lad. I've been watching a lot of Wes Anderson lately. Watched the Grand Budapest Hotel, as I said, and what was the other one I watched?
Tenenbaums.
The Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah, I mentioned that to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I identify very strongly with the Royal Tenenbaums, by the way. I feel
a movie about a bad dad.
No, my dad wasn't a bad
no,
dad.
not like a bad, like a misbehaving dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could easily be one of fucking Royal's children, telling you that now.
I agree. I think that's all of his films have got like an outlaw dad in there. I could, you know what I mean? I feel like our dads could be a Wes Anderson character, you know what I mean?
Our lads could essentially be directed by Wes Anderson.
Especially with that t-shirt on.
Tell me about it, lad. Cinematography. But I don't know, man. I always feel like my fucking life's almost a script written and directed by either Tarantino or Kubrick, or fucking just split down the middle between the two.
I feel like a lot of the time, with your own life, like I think Richard Linklater said this like years and years ago when he first started out, and he was saying like the Before trilogy, the first movie is based on his own life. Like that happened to him. Like he met someone on a train and they had all that stuff that happened to him. And he explained it as to say like the reason he made that film was because he's never been to war. He's never like been in a car chase. He's never jumped out of a helicopter. But still to him at 31, 32, his life felt full of drama. And like, who's to say otherwise that his life isn't dramatic? And if there's anything dramatic, you can get a story out of it. Know what I mean?
Domestic drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like he's made like all of the like Dazed and Confused, a classic, is about himself. Everybody Wants Some is about
Underrated
himself.
film.
Brilliant
Very underrated
film.
film.
Got me through uni, that film. The Before trilogy is about himself. Like all of his characters and his films and his
Authentic depiction
stories.
of love, by the way.
Exactly.
Or what this sort of the
most authentic depiction of
the
love.
most authentic depiction of
seen
love I
on
think
film.
we've ever seen on film. We had an in-depth discussion about this the other night that went on for like 2 hours.
I approached it very cynically.
But honestly, mate, like to go back to Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Light.
Yeah.
That lad, the fucking
Excuse me.
the
The Saint Michael lad making me behave.
the part in the book where he's describing how he met his wife. Fucking hell, I was falling in love with her. Jesus. It's going,
What is it about the dress?
The turquoise dress falling off the caramel coloured shoulders.
Oh, God.
Oh my God. Like I was there, lad, in a hazy, misty room in some hotel. Just beautiful, mate.
I don't think I'll ever look at like a person and like fall in love that way. You know what I mean?
Is that you just being a cynic?
I think it might be, yeah. You know what I mean?
Because I feel like in moments I've had those sort of glimpses.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel like it. Like I was saying to you about like Titanic. You know what I mean?
A film
like,
I have not seen.
The way. Okay. What's another? Like, if you think of like Romeo and Juliet, like star-crossed lovers and all that, I don't really feel like that kind of love exists like in the real world. You know what I mean? I feel like it's something like invented to be
it goes
entertaining.
without saying though, it's romanticised and blown out of proportion for dramatic portrayal. Whereas I think in this instance, it's a book. I mean, I know you listened to it as well, didn't you? The audio book. So it comes across that way because I think he's verbalising it and it almost feels as if he's sort of blowing it out of proportion. But at the end of the day, he has written this. So this is something that's sort of gone through his brain that he's managed to express. And I think it goes to me pointing that I've sort of gone into it with you before, in that you could pick a John Smith off the street who loves his wife as equally as he does.
Yeah. But he just can't.
But he can't express it or articulate it in the way that Matthew McConaughey has managed to do.
Like somebody might feel the same way but can't describe it the way a writer describes it.
Yeah.
Fair.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
No, I know exactly where you're coming from. Yeah, I just think like.
So I think that's what makes it authentic.
Yeah. The fact that he's able to verbalise it.
Yeah.
And like he does romanticise and like describe it in a way to be entertaining.
I admire those people very much. Those people that manage to articulate and communicate in depth and as clear as they want to.
I think you're like that though.
Fucking hell, with this accent.
Doesn't matter, lad.
Jesus.
So what?
I can barely speak English
and
at
we
times.
talk like we've got a mouthful of syrup, but it doesn't matter.
You know what, right? You were saying you hadn't seen Scarface before, and I'm assuming this means that you haven't seen The Sopranos either. What are you doing, lads? As a film director,
worst, I know.
As a film director, that
you're right, I'm
wants
wrong.
to live
You're
and
the
breathe
best,
film.
I'm the worst.
This is not the point that I'm trying to get across. I keep telling you to watch it, and you go, yeah, I'll stick the first episode on tonight. Have you yet? No. So what I'm saying is,
I'm busy. I'm finishing BoJack Horseman, lad. I'm busy. Come on, no.
Turn me off. I watched a couple of seasons of it, but couldn't carry on with it really.
Okay. What was you going to say
about
The
Sopranos? Right, it takes elements of film and cinema and incorporates them into TV. Like, we're watching them in the age of streaming now, so I don't think we quite get the same sort of resonance as the audience did back in, late 1990s, early 2000s when The Sopranos was on air. But the influence of cinema in The Sopranos is just absolutely beautiful.
I'm aware that like The Sopranos was like brilliant television before like the renaissance of great television of like the last 10 years. But it's like, I've said this to you before, it's like, I know The Sopranos is brilliant and I haven't seen it because it's just like it's just like common knowledge. Everyone agrees that The Sopranos is one of the best TV shows ever made. The Wire is one of the best TV shows ever made. I haven't seen that either. Like, and then with film, it's like Citizen Kane, 2001: A Space Odyssey, things like that. Like, everybody knows, like, these are the best films ever made. And when you watch it, you're gonna agree. Like, it's just fact.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I have to rush into watching it because it's always going to be there. It's been good for 20 years.
Yeah, what's a classic's going to remain a classic.
Yeah, it's been a classic for 20 years and it's going to be a classic for another 20, 30, 40, whatever years. So I feel like when I eventually get round to it, I'm going to love it. But I feel like I'm more interested in watching things that I don't know how I'm going to feel about. Know what I mean? Rather than going into something like, I know as soon as I sit down, turn it on, I'm going to be blown away. Like, I'm not rushing into that, know what I mean?
Yeah. That's another point that's made in some, I guess, just some of the content overall that I've been consuming lately, is that aspect of novelty. Like, how important that is to life and meaning essentially. Like, one of the points that gets made in this Jordan Peterson book, which I do believe, by the way, that lands me in a couple of sort of arguments and interesting discussions with people, is I genuinely don't think that happiness is the meaning of life. I think the meaning of life is to discover meaning, like things that sort of have aspects of novelty that you haven't experienced before. Like, because I feel
things that give you meaning in yourself.
Yeah, like that subjective meaning. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Because
do you not think that makes you happy though? If you find
it does.
meaning?
But happiness is fleeting.
Yeah.
Happiness leaves. Happiness is it's like I was talking before about the process. Using the example of wanting to be a film director, you'll work and you'll work and you'll work and you'll work. You'll have that evening where your name's up in headlights. Next morning it's gone. A good example of that's graduation. Like,
I didn't even go.
I didn't even have one. Never fucking had one.
Oh yeah, COVID.
I sat on my couch playing FIFA while they had the online ceremony.
I was in Madrid, pissed, watching Liverpool win the Champions League. It's great.
How's that getting on now?
We're in the Champions League, lad. Everton, lad.
True. We'll probably will. Might be
next question.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of happiness being fleeting.
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Like, it's a moment that leaves.
Like, happiness is fleeting. 12 months ago, Liverpool were the best team in the world. And now, we're not very good. Know what I mean?
Can I ask one question in particular? Because I asked this of a lawyer, Daniel J, who's turned out to be quite a good friend over the last year or so. I really do appreciate it.
It's a good friend to have, a lawyer, lad. You're in a tight spot.
Fucking especially in my family, you know what I mean? But I asked him a question about Thiago, lad. What's going on with Thiago? I love Thiago. I'm saying this as an Everton fan. I love Thiago Alcantara. He's a beautiful footballer to watch when he's playing well.
He's terrific, isn't he?
I know.
He's like fresh bedding, lad. He's just silky smooth, isn't he?
Seen a decent clip on Twitter recently where it's Thiago at Bayern versus Thiago at Liverpool, lad. There was a free kick from like 25 yards out at Bayern. He dinks it over the wall. Lewandowski volleys it into the top corner. Does it at Liverpool and it just goes out because no one's wise enough to make the run to meet it at the end of it.
I think there's a lot going on with Thiago. Have we gone over here? Are we good?
No, like 25 past started.
Oh, right, sound okay. You just cut that out. What? Okay, there's a lot going on with Thiago. I think, first of all, he's come into a team. He's not playing for the Liverpool that he signed for. You know what I mean? Like,
he was sold a vision that doesn't exist.
No, I think he was sold a vision that existed at the time when he signed his contract. But and then he got injured straight away. And in our form,
has he won it? Like, that's an interesting stat. Has he won a game at Anfield yet? Because apparently
I don't think he hasn't won at Anfield. We've lost 5 games on the bounce at Anfield. It's ridiculous, isn't it? The fortress, and we've lost 5 games on the bounce at home. It's madness. But I think he's playing a position. It's not even that. I feel like he's being bought to replace Wijnaldum. But Ronaldo hasn't left yet, so he's got to...
Why he's getting rid of him, man? Solid player. Very good player.
He doesn't want to sign a new contract,
doesn't he?
No. I don't know, I fucking love him, lad. He's great.
Good player.
But I feel like he's been brought in to replace Wijnaldum when Wijnaldum eventually leaves. And then injuries and form, he's having to squeeze, because Henderson's gone at the back and then eventually got injured. He's having to like squeeze them in the midfield at the same time. And then obviously with Fabinho having to play centre back and things like that, you've got like the only one who can play the 6 out of the 3 midfielders who have been consistently fit this season is Thiago. So Thiago's been brought in to play one role, but is having to play another role.
Similar to Emre Can when you brought Emre Can in.
Exactly. But then again, like Emre Can wasn't then and still isn't a patch on Thiago. You know what I mean? So it's like,
give Thiago that creative license.
Exactly. He's like for years, like the Fekir thing, remember? When we lost Coutinho and we were saying, we need a number 10, we need a number 10. Sorry?
Was it his knee eventually?
Fekir, yeah. Like he had a moody knee or something like that. But everyone was saying like we needed a number 10 and all this, you know what I mean? And I don't think like we did need a number 10 because of like the license to go forward that we allowed the fullbacks and the fact that we have essentially 3 holding midfielders at the time. But like getting Thiago is the perfect player for Liverpool's midfield because he can attack as much as he can defend and he can play. He's one of the best passers of the ball I've ever seen in my life. But he's just not... He's not playing very well at the minute, but none of them are, you know what I mean? So he's not playing for the Liverpool that he signed to play for. Yeah. I don't think.
Because I asked the question essentially of, is he just off it or is it a symptom of the rest of the team?
I think
being
it's,
but it's
the entire team.
Combination of both. Yeah, I got told it was a combination of both. And unlike a lot of Liverpool fans, you often show affection and endearment to Everton, yeah. Right.
I've always said, lad.
Get on Alan at the moment, lad. Everton have a Brazilian centre midfielder with a skinhead wearing OG Predators.
I seen that the other day. And boots, they were the first boots I ever had them.
Innit?
But the black and red ones. Yeah. What's the best pair of footy boots you had?
The ones I've got at the minute.
Yeah.
Blackout Coppers.
Yeah.
Blackout Copper Mundials.
Do you like still play footy in that? I haven't kicked the ball in years, me. Yeah. I had my favourite boots ever were blue and white, like Tiempos.
Tiempos, I remember. You had the Tiempos. Yeah. You had the Tiempos and I had the CTRs.
Yeah, man. Sick them.
Happy days.
I like the way they were just basically made out of sponge with like synthetic leather on the outside. You just like proper like squeeze your foot. You know what I mean? Like you could see the outline of your toes in them. It's fucking great, lad. They were boss.
Do you wear 2 pairs? Did you used to wear 2 pairs of socks and you play footy? Or no, just the one?
No, like, cause I've got like weirdly wide feet.
Have
you know
you?
What I mean? Like I've got like short but wide feet. So if I had 2 pairs of socks, I couldn't put my foot in the boot, lad. I've just got moody feet, haven't I? But they were good at kicking ball.
Had enough of the footy, you, haven't you?
I've had enough of it, lad. It's not the same, lad. It's like obviously I fell out of love with playing footy, but I was still a football fan.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I sound dead spoilt saying it, because at the end of the day we won the league last season, but halfway through last season, when the COVID thing happened and they had the little hiatus and they brought it back with no fans, it hasn't been the same since then. And I
agree.
I haven't been... Obviously, it hasn't been the same, and everyone will agree with that statement. But I feel like, for me personally, it feels like it is something to imitate football to keep you entertained until real football comes back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of people hate
it's
that.
It's like a moody spin-off of a sitcom. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like.
It's a byproduct of what's been coming over the last several years, and that football is very much an entertainment product now. Yeah. And I don't think that was ever more...
Well, it's always been an entertainment product.
No, of course, it entertains the masses, but I've always likened it to a religion, mate, the way you sort of subscribe to it. And you, like, for me, notification, like, come up the other day that, not too long ago, like last weekend, something like that, was the last time there was a full house at Goodison, which was depressing, which meant, as a season ticket Evertonian since the age of, God, 9, 10.
Seen some ups and downs there. Jesus.
But I haven't been to Goodison in a year. That's fucking depressing. That's so depressing. And it's very much fallen out of love with it in a sense. Like, it's been different this year, lad. Like, for example, when we beat yous the other week, like, lad, that should,
like I half went asked.
That should have been, lad, that should have been up there with being one of the best nights out of my life. First time,
exactly.
Since 1999.
Obviously now, like we've spoke about, like I'm gutted that we lost that derby, obviously, but like on the day when it happened, I weren't asked. You know what I mean? There was no fans in the ground. I went out watching it with it, like I watched it in the flat on my own because we were in lockdown.
Yeah,
you know
I was watching it in the fucking back room.
Yeah, like when we won the league as well, like
not the same.
Well, I don't know what.
Not how
I
it
don't
should
know
be.
because I've
Definitely
never seen
not
us
how
win
it
the
should
league,
be.
and that's why I said that I feel spoiled because I've never seen us win the league. We hadn't won the league for 30 years, and we won it, and I was like, sick that. You know what I mean? It's just like I feel so spoiled saying it, but it's true that it doesn't feel like real football. You know what I mean? And I miss it. Like, it makes me sad
because you've. It might not necessarily be true, but I'm going to use the phrase "fell out of love with football."
Yeah.
As that direct,
no, I fully fell out of love with football.
As that plunged you further into your involvement with different forms of entertainment.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, because I remember when I knew Liverpool were playing, I looked forward to it all week. You know what I mean? But now I don't. I'm focusing on like other things. You know what I mean? Writing, like producing a short film, like watching other movies and reading. I've fucking started reading books again. I didn't think that was ever going to happen again since I downloaded Audible. But like I've actually, you know what I mean? Like the footy's just not on my mind anymore. And I feel like, again, like a bit of a coward saying that now that Liverpool have gone shit again. Like now I've fell out of love with football. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
what a coincidence.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like it sounds like that's what I'm saying, but as I said, it was last season, halfway through last season. We were a million points ahead at the top of the league, but there's no fans in the ground, and you can't go out and watch it with your mates. And you know what I mean? It was it just didn't feel like the footy, and it hasn't done for a year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Have there been any films that you've watched recently that's really struck a chord with you? Like you were saying, you're willing to give these films the time of day that you don't know how you're going to feel about them. Have any of them sort of struck a chord with you and resonated with you?
No, because lately I've been rewatching a lot of things that I've already seen, and I feel like rewatching something it's like a comfort. Know what I mean? Because whether it's a sad film or whether it's like a happy film or whatever, like you know what you're gonna get because you know how that film made you feel the last time you seen it, so you know what you're signing up for. Know what I mean? So it's like there's like a comfort in like revisiting like a story and characters that you've seen before. Know what I mean? Like I rewatch a lot of films.
Yeah. That's the same with
more than I watch new films. I think
that's the same with my music taste. That I'm honest
exactly.
About,
even
like,
more so with my music.
You're just going on to Apple Music and pressing shuffle, and it's all shit that you
have a music.
Before. Yeah,
it's right.
You've been turning me onto a couple of tunes lately, lad.
What?
The what was the recent one that you turned me onto, lad? You turn me on to more. I'll give a listen to the Hotel Tranquility Base Casino.
Yeah.
It still doesn't.
I love it, lad. I love it. It's the best. It's their best album.
Still doesn't resonate with me as
no,
such.
it's not. It's not their best, but it's my favourite. You know what I mean?
It was alright. Right.
You don't understand it, man.
Alright, whatever. Fucking Mr. Art House over there.
I seem to notice that you like the Stroke song.
That's what I'm getting,
Hard to explain.
That was just lost on
me. It's a
me.
ram of
I've been listening to a bit more Stroke.
I've like fully they're not my favourite band, but like I'm 20 years late to the party. First of all, like they've been going since 2001.
It's boss listening to stuff when you're late to the party.
Yeah,
makes you feel cool.
Like
I'm not hard. Fucking listen to stuff from fucking 30, 40 years ago. You feel cool.
The thing is with the Strokes, like they were like the biggest thing in the world in like the early 2000s, and then sort of like could never, like they had like a groundbreaking album, their first album, and then could never really get back to what they did with their first album, and they've been trying to get back there for 20 years. I never really listened to them like in my whole life until last summer when they brought out this new album now,
right?
The new album Normal, and then through that new album I went backwards and discovered the Strokes exactly down,
Is it any,
down the rabbit hole.
That's my problem with a lot of sort of
so I feel like the reason I'm listening to like so much of the Strokes now is because like I've got catching up to do, you know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, but
one of my main issues with going back and listening to old bands is when you listen to the new stuff.
I can't get used to this microphone in my face, sorry.
Get used to it, man. It's sick, I enjoy it.
Go on, sorry. It's just like pointing right at me, I can't get used to it. But go on, sorry to interrupt.
Going back and listening to I can't think of it. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I'll use them for an example because they were a band I got massively into before I moved to university, thanks Dad, is that once you listen to the new stuff, and again I think it might just be a sort of symptom of the streaming age, and we're spoiled for choice with streaming age, the way we can just bypass sort of how albums were meant to be listened to. There's so many more skips than what they would originally be.
Yeah, and especially with like playlists and stuff like that. Like the playlists are what like mixtapes were for like our parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like there's a difference between, I feel like people don't really pay attention to music the same way anymore because of like the likes of like a playlist. You can listen to one song from the 80s by one artist, and then on the very next song it's something that came out last week, you know what I mean? It's like, and obviously it's good to have like a variety, but there's nothing better than just listening to like an album start to finish, you know what I mean? What's your favourite album of all time? Doesn't necessarily have to be by your favourite band, just your favourite album.
If we're talking bands, Californication's up there.
Yeah. As an album start to finish with no skips, that's your favourite.
Around the World, Parallel Universe.
Yeah.
Sick. You know, I'm big into hip hop and rap.
Yeah.
And I'll maintain this no matter how many times you ask me. 2014 Forest Hills Drive, I always tell you this. And I always ask you if you've listened to
That's
it.
That's proper Max vibes.
I did in 2014 when you told me to listen to it. But I still fucking adore that album. I think that's one of the best albums ever. For Your Eyes Only by J. Cole as well. The Eminem Show, which I think is massively underrated. I think it's a fucking genius piece of work. But again, I mean, last 5-10 minutes, I fucking just pay tribute to me dad again. The fucking films and music that man turned me onto. Like, the man just fucking loved culture and art and made sure that I didn't just enjoy them, that I really fucking enjoyed them. Like fucking Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix. I remember being in yours when the lockdown got lifted for a bit till like 4 a.m, discussing whose cover of All Along the Watchtower was better. Like, it's just fucking genius. Like, these people that we missed out on purely from being born in the era that we were born in. Pink Floyd, just to name another. Led Zeppelin. Like, lad, fucking the Beatles for one. Like, fucking Alex Turner wanted to be one of the Strokes. I want to be one of the fucking Beatles, lad, but I'm not because I'm blonde and I'm fucking born in this era. It's shit. I'd love to be fucking Paul McCartney.
There was no John Eds in the Beatles, lad.
Do you know what I mean, though?
No, I know exactly what you mean, yeah. And it's like that sort of like appreciation for those, like the way your dad like sort of forced you to appreciate certain musicians and like certain films and things like that. I feel like we are all just a product of our upbringing, know what I mean?
Very true.
Like, I know my mum and my dad are the reason I love films, because it's all we ever used to do together. Is like me ma, like when I was a kid, like she was a single mum with 2 kids. Like, we'd either, when we'd go out, like we'd go to pictures or we'd just stay in and watch a film on the telly.
Yeah.
And then obviously my dad, like, being overseas a lot, when he'd come home, when we were, he'd basically come home and, like, couldn't adapt back to, like, civilian
Home
life, basically.
Yeah, man, I
So
understand.
we'd go on holiday and we'd do that, like, know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then whenever we were home, he didn't want to go out, so we'd just watch films, you know what I mean? So that's me mum and me dad just basically raised me on, like, I always say to my mum as a joke, like, I was raised on romantic comedies, like, because that's what I'd watch with my mum, and then I'd go with my dad and we'd watch like Goodfellas and Heat and things like that.
Nah,
and,
that's my favourite film. Heat, 1995, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, best film ever made. My dad told me to watch that when I was like 15 and my mum was blown. That's the best film.
The first time I watched it, I hated it. I thought it was boring.
Really?
But like, I wasn't on it, know what I mean? I was too young to know what was going on, know what I mean? I just thought it was these two our fellas just like arguing with each other for the whole thing, and then every now and again, like, someone shoots a gun. But like, now,
beautiful.
that film, it's ridiculous.
Beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice
They don't
way
make them like that anymore.
Tell me about it, bro. But I think it's a nice sort of avenue to end on last 5, right? Do you remember that summer just before my 18th birthday in Liverpool One Garden? We sat down with my dad and had a pint. And I just talked about things like you just finished work.
He's winding me up because I had like coffee and stuff on my clothes. He was like, why don't you go home and get changed? I was like, because you asked me to come after work.
You think about you think about how we met each other and after football and things like that. And, you know, you'd be there in a dressing room full of John Heads, essentially, with no appreciation.
There's nothing wrong with the John Head, but
no, don't get me wrong. Lad, look at the way I'm dressed. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, there's very little appreciation for the arts and culture, with the exception of sports, which is a cornerstone of culture. I, more than anyone, will tell you that. But like, the fact that we appreciate the arts and they resonate with us as much as they do is one of the reasons why I think I'm sat here with a kid in round frame glasses and peculiar looking pants and shoes talking about life, you know what I mean?
Well, thanks, Max. Thank
Very,
you.
very welcome, lad. And like I say, I look forward to future podcasts discussing your career and avenues, and let's see where it leads us, lad. Try and get the likes of Paddy, Stephen Graham, and all that on the 100%. Podcast, man.
I want the 4 of us to come on it eventually, like me, Paddy, Ben and Robin, like, or all of us who work together on our films. Like, I'd like to do one with all of us, know what I mean? Like, after like this, hopefully, if we get this proof of concept shot this summer, I'd like to get us all on it together to talk about it, try and like promote it the reasons filmmakers go on podcasts in the first place is to promote their work. I don't really at the moment have anything to promote, so
it's okay.
Yeah. So hopefully the 4 of us will come on in like maybe this time next year.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome to you, mate.